prescribing oxycodone. The incident leaves him emotionally shaken and vulnerable, adding to his already fragile state of mind. Later, while searching for a gift for Nikki, Bear visits a small occult shop filled with strange and mysterious items. There he comes across an unusual novelty toy called the Wish Willow. The object claims to grant one wish per person if it is broken. Intrigued by its promise and driven by his emotional longing, Bear decides to purchase it. That same night, Nikki unexpectedly confronts Bear and directly asks him whether he has feelings for her. Caught off guard and overwhelmed with anxiety, Bear nervously denies it, unable to confess the truth. The moment leaves him frustrated with himself and consumed by regret. Unable to control his emotions any longer, Bear eventually breaks the Wish Willow and makes a desperate wish that Nikki will love him more than anyone else in the world. Soon after, Nikki asks if she can stay over at Bear's house. She opens up to him, revealing that her estranged father is dying of cancer, leaving her emotionally vulnerable as well. As the night grows quiet, she lies in bed beside him and suddenly kisses him, an unexpected moment that seems to confirm Bear's deepest desire. But in an instant, the warmth shifts. Nikki abruptly pulls away, screaming in distress, as something about the moment feels horribly wrong and unsettling. The next morning, Bear wakes up still unsettled by the strange events of the previous night, only to be confronted with something even more disturbing. Nikki has created what she calls a memorial for his deceased cat, Sandy, using the animal's remains in a way that feels deeply invasive and emotionally wrong to him. Instead of offering comfort or respect for his loss, the gesture comes across as unsettlingly intimate, as if she is inserting herself into a grief that is not hers to shape. Bear is visibly disturbed, struggling to process how something meant to honor his pet could feel so violating, and the moment leaves a quiet but heavy tension between them that neither of them fully addresses. Later that same night, Nikki attempts to explain her earlier erratic and unpredictable behavior. She tells Bear that she had taken MDMA, implying that the drug caused her emotional instability and unusual actions. She then reassures him that despite everything, her feelings are genuine and that she truly cares about him. Wanting to believe her and still emotionally attached, Bear allows himself to accept this explanation, and the two begin dating. For a short time, their relationship appears to stabilize, filled with affection and a sense of closeness that Bear has long desired, even though subtle discomfort still lingers beneath the surface. That fragile sense of normalcy is disrupted when Ian later approaches Bear with troubling information. Ian reveals that Nikki had previously told Sarah that she saw Bear more like a little brother just before their relationship began, directly contradicting her romantic claims. He also discloses that Nikki had lied about her father suffering from cancer, exposing yet another manipulation that Bear had believed was real. These revelations leave Bear conflicted and uneasy, forcing him to question what parts of their relationship were ever honest in the first place. That night, Bear experiences another deeply disturbing moment when he wakes up to find Nikki silently watching him sleep. The sight is both intimate and invasive, creating an immediate sense of fear and vulnerability. Nikki then accuses him of not truly reciprocating her love with equal intensity, as if measuring and demanding emotional devotion in a way that feels increasingly unstable. The following morning delivers the most horrifying shock yet. Bear discovers that Nikki has prepared a sandwich for him, but instead of normal ingredients, it has been made using the remains of his cat, Sandy. The act is so grotesque and psychologically disturbing that it shatters any remaining sense of normalcy for Bear, leaving him horrified, trapped between disbelief and terror as the situation spirals further into something far beyond a typical relationship or reality he can control. Ian confronts Bear and accuses him of using Nikki for his own emotional fulfillment, pointing out that her behavior has changed in extreme and unsettling ways since they began dating. The accusation hits Bear hard, forcing him to question not only Nikki's actions, but also his own role in everything that has unfolded. Conflicted and desperate for answers, Bear decides to call the customer support line for the Wish Willow, hoping there might be a way to alter or undo the wish he made. On the other end of the line, the response is cold and disturbing. The voice informs him that the wish cannot simply be changed or reversed. it will only expire when either Bear or Nikki dies. Before Bear can fully process this horrifying limitation, the call takes an even more terrifying turn. Nikki is suddenly put on the line and her voice is heard in a state of hysterical screaming, creating a moment of pure panic and helplessness for Bear as he realizes how far beyond control everything has become. Despite Ian's strong objections and growing concern, Nikki insists on accompanying Bear to a party at Ian's house that night. The atmosphere at the gathering is already tense, but her presence makes everything feel even more unstable, as if no one is safe from what she might do or say next. During a drunken game of Jenga, the situation becomes increasingly uncomfortable and chaotic. Nikki suddenly delivers a disturbing, graphic retelling of the classic story, Hansel and Gretel, twisting it into something violent and incestuous, shocking everyone at the table and breaking whatever sense of normal party atmosphere remained. The story leaves the group unsettled, but things escalate further when Bear draws a block that dares him to kiss the person sitting to his left, Sarah. Before Bear can react, Nikki abruptly intervenes, forcing Sarah out of her seat and taking her place. She then kisses Bear in front of everyone, turning the moment into something possessive and deeply uncomfortable rather than romantic. The room falls into stunned silence as tension spikes sharply. Almost immediately afterward, Nikki begins screaming uncontrollably. In a sudden and violent breakdown, she grabs a broken bottle and stabs herself in the face, shattering the fragile boundary between emotional instability and outright horror. The party is thrown into chaos as the situation spirals into shocking violence, leaving everyone horrified and powerless to intervene in time. Later that night, the situation between Bear and Nikki becomes even more emotionally intense and unstable. Nikki, overwhelmed and possessive, threatens to harm herself in an attempt to pressure Bear into staying in bed with her. The moment is manipulative and deeply distressing, leaving Bear trapped between fear for her safety and his growing sense that the relationship has become something unhealthy and controlling. At the same time, Sarah texts Bear and asks him to meet her at a nearby park so they can talk privately. Looking for clarity and an escape from the escalating tension, Bear tries to leave. However, as he attempts to go, Nikki suddenly wakes up in a moment of eerie calm. She claims that her obsessive side, the version of herself responsible for the recent extreme behavior, is no longer in control, as if a different part of her personality is speaking. In this brief moment of lucidity, she pleads with Bear to kill her, believing it is the only way to stop what she has become. Bear is horrified and refuses, feeling offended and devastated that she would rather die than continue being with him, further deepening the emotional rupture between them. Bear proceeds to meet Sarah at the park, where she reveals a shocking truth. She tells him that Ian and Nikki had been casually involved with each other for the past 2 years, suggesting a hidden history that Bear was never aware of. Sarah also expresses concern that Nikki may be using Bear as a way to get back at Ian, turning what Bear believed was a genuine relationship into something potentially rooted in manipulation and emotional retaliation. As the conversation continues, Sarah subtly hints at her own attraction toward Bear, adding another layer of emotional confusion and tension to an already unstable situation. However, before anything more can develop, Nikki suddenly appears at the scene. What follows is a sudden and brutal act of violence. Nikki attacks Sarah and kills her in a shocking outburst, repeatedly slamming her head into a brick until she dies. In the aftermath, Nikki remains disturbingly composed. She instructs a traumatized Bear to return home while she takes responsibility for disposing of Sarah's body, treating the horrific act with a chilling sense of control. Bear is left in a state of shock and emotional collapse, forced to leave the scene while everything he thought he understood about love, reality, and Nikki continues to unravel in the most violent way possible. Bear manages to get his hands on the last 2 remaining Wish Willows from the occult shop, clinging to the hope that he can somehow undo the catastrophic wish he originally made. Desperate and increasingly panicked, he attempts to break one of the toys to reverse everything, but no matter how hard he tries, he finds himself unable to snap it. It becomes clear that the object is not as simple or controllable as he once believed, and that reversing the wish may not be possible through force or intention alone. Overwhelmed, Bear turns to Ian and explains the entire situation in detail, pleading with him to use his own wish instead to undo what has been done. However, Ian reacts with disbelief and refuses to take the situation seriously in the way Bear needs. Instead of helping, Ian impulsively uses his wish for something trivial, asking for $1 billion. To Bear's shock, the wish immediately manifests in a surreal and chaotic way, as massive amounts of cash literally begin raining down from the ceiling, turning the moment into a bizarre mix of horror and absurdity. With no help left, Bear returns home holding the final remaining Wish Willow, determined to force Nikki to reverse the original wish herself. But what he walks into is far worse than he imagined. Inside the house, he discovers the mutilated corpse of Sarah, confirming the full extent of Nikki's violence. The scene is horrifying and emotionally shattering, leaving Bear frozen in shock as the reality of what has happened fully sets in. Before he can process it, Nikki appears wearing Sarah's clothing, a disturbing and unsettling act that blurs identity and sanity even further. The atmosphere turns tense and dangerous instantly. Nikki's behavior becomes threatening as she confronts Bear, and in a final escalation of instability and fear, she takes control of the situation by holding both herself and Bear at gunpoint. The moment is filled with panic, emotional collapse, and the terrifying realization that everything has spiraled completely beyond control, with no clear escape or resolution in sight. Ian arrives at the house unaware of how far the situation has already escalated. The moment he steps inside, Nikki reacts with immediate violence and shoots him dead without hesitation. His sudden death adds another layer of shock and finality to the already collapsing situation, leaving Bear completely trapped in a nightmare with no outside help remaining. Overwhelmed by fear, grief, and panic, Bear runs into the bathroom and locks himself inside. In a desperate attempt to escape the emotional and psychological pressure, he consumes the remaining oxycodone. Almost immediately afterward, clarity returns, and he realizes what he has done. Regret and survival instinct take over, and he desperately tries to induce vomiting, fighting against the effects of the overdose in a frantic attempt to undo his own decision. Outside the bathroom, Nikki discovers that she still has the last remaining Wish Willow. In her broken emotional state, she uses it, and the supernatural influence of the object takes effect. Under the control of the wish, Bear emerges from the bathroom in an altered, compliant state. In a disturbing and tragic moment, he approaches Nikki and kisses her, not out of genuine feeling, but as a result of the wish's control. Immediately after, his body succumbs to the overdose, and he collapses and dies in front of her. Nikki is left completely shattered by what happens. In a state of heartbreak and instability, she prepares to turn the gun on herself, unable to process the emotional and physical destruction surrounding her. However, Bear's death disrupts the supernatural control of the wish. In that moment, the real Nikki briefly resurfaces, regaining awareness of her actions and the horror she has caused. As she comes back to herself, Nikki is overwhelmed by the devastation inside the house, the deaths, the violence, and the irreversible consequences of everything that has unfolded. The weight of it all breaks her emotionally, and she begins to wail hysterically, consumed by grief, shock, and the realization of what she has become and what has been lost. Michael Johnston plays Baron Bear Bailey, a quiet and emotionally vulnerable employee at a music store. He is someone who lives a fairly ordinary life on the surface, but internally struggles with loneliness and unspoken feelings. Much of his emotional world revolves around his close friendship with Nikki, and his inability to openly express his deeper romantic interest in her. Inde Navarrette portrays Nikki Freeman, Bear's co-worker, close friend, and longtime crush. Nikki is central to the emotional and psychological collapse of the story, as her relationship with Bear shifts dramatically after the supernatural wish is made. Her character moves between moments of affection, instability, and terrifying obsession, becoming the driving force behind much of the film's escalating horror. Cooper Tomlinson plays Ian, a mutual friend of both Bear and Nikki. Ian acts as part of their shared social circle within the music store environment. As the story progresses, he becomes an important figure in revealing hidden truths and escalating tensions between the characters, especially as relationships begin to fracture under pressure. Megan Lawless plays Sarah Harper, another friend within the group and the daughter of Carter. Sarah initially appears as part of the same everyday social dynamics surrounding Bear and Nikki, but as events unfold, she becomes more directly involved in uncovering uncomfortable truths about the relationships within the group, ultimately becoming part of the story's tragic chain of consequences. Andy Richter plays Carter Harper, the owner of the music store where Bear, Nikki, Ian, and Sarah all work. He is also Sarah Harper's father, which ties him directly into the group's personal and professional dynamics. As the store boss, Carter represents the more grounded, everyday structure of their lives, overseeing the workplace where much of the story's relationships and tensions quietly develop. Haley Fitzgerald portrays Viola, an employee at the mysterious occult shop where Bear eventually purchases the Wish Willow. Viola serves as a bridge between the ordinary world and the supernatural element of the story. Her presence adds an unsettling sense of curiosity and ambiguity as she is connected to the strange object that ultimately triggers the chain of catastrophic events. Curry Barker provides the voice of the customer service representative for the Wish Willow. Though never seen on screen in a traditional physical sense, this voice becomes an eerie and unsettling presence when Bear attempts to seek answers or control over the wish. The character reinforces the idea that the supernatural force behind the object is impersonal, inescapable, and far beyond human reasoning, offering cryptic and disturbing information rather than real help. In 2023, Curry Barker wrote and directed a short horror film titled The Chair, which he later uploaded to YouTube. The short gained attention within the horror community and helped establish him as a filmmaker with a distinct voice in psychological and unsettling storytelling. Following its release, film producer James Harris of T-Shop Productions reached out to Barker with the idea of adapting The Chair into a full-length feature film. However, instead of moving forward with that specific project, Barker used the opportunity to pitch a completely different concept: obsession. This shift marked the beginning of the feature film that would eventually be made, with Barker taking on multiple creative roles in its development. Originally, Barker envisioned Obsession as a story focused purely on an intensely obsessive romantic relationship, grounded in emotional and psychological realism. The supernatural element had not yet been part of the concept. The idea for incorporating a wish-based supernatural device came later, sparked by an unexpected moment while Barker was preparing to watch an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, in which he appeared. Before the episode aired, he happened to see the lead-in program on FXX, an episode of The Simpsons featuring Homer Simpson and a monkey's paw that grants wishes with dark consequences. This brief encounter left a strong impression on him and directly inspired the inclusion of a wish-granting object in Obsession. The concept helped merge emotional obsession with supernatural horror, shaping the final direction of the film into a blend of psychological tension and fatalistic consequence. The strength of the concept ultimately opened significant doors for Curry Barker in the film industry. Following the development of Obsession, he was signed by the talent agency William Morris Endeavor, WME, marking a major step forward in his career as a filmmaker. Alongside this representation, he also received an offer to direct the feature film with a production budget of approximately $1 million, giving him the resources to expand the idea into a fully realized theatrical release. Barker then spent around 8 months writing and refining the screenplay. During this period, he worked closely with the production companies involved in the project, which included T-Shop Productions, Under the Shell, and Capstone Studios. This collaborative process allowed the script to evolve carefully, balancing its psychological horror elements with the supernatural framework that had become central to the story. In addition to writing and directing responsibilities, Barker also contributed to the visual and conceptual design of key elements in the film. One of the most important of these was the Wish Willow, the mysterious object that drives much of the plot. He developed its design in collaboration with his mother, who is a graphic art designer. This personal collaboration helped shape the object into something visually distinctive and thematically meaningful, reinforcing its role as both a seemingly simple toy and a source of escalating horror throughout the story. By August 2024, casting for Obsession was actively underway, with principal photography planned to begin in October of the same year. The casting process focused heavily on finding actors who could balance emotional realism with the film's increasingly unsettling psychological tone. Inde Navarrette was ultimately cast as Nikki Freeman after Curry Barker felt she perfectly captured the delicate balance between being both crazy and frightening while still feeling emotionally grounded. Her ability to shift between vulnerability, affection, and unpredictability made her a strong fit for the complex role. After a chemistry read with Navarrette, Michael Johnston was selected to play Bear Bailey, with Barker noting that their dynamic on screen felt natural and emotionally convincing, which was essential for the core relationship at the center of the story. Filming for Obsession was completed in an unusually tight schedule, wrapping within approximately 20 to 26 days. Despite the limited time frame, the production maintained a consistent pace, often shooting between 5 to 6 script pages per day. Principal photography took place in the Los Angeles area using a mix of controlled interiors and carefully designed locations to support the film's intimate and claustrophobic atmosphere. Cinematographer Taylor Clemens worked closely with Barker to develop a distinct visual style for the film. They chose to frame shots in a center-composed manner, often leaving extra headroom above characters. This stylistic decision was intentional, designed to create a lingering sense of emptiness and discomfort within. By March 2025, Obsession had entered post-production, with Curry Barker taking on the role of editor in addition to his duties as writer and director. This stage focused on refining the pacing, structure, and intensity of the film, carefully shaping how its psychological and horror elements would unfold for audiences. During the editing process, certain sequences had to be adjusted to meet rating requirements. In particular, a scene involving a character having their head violently smashed was significantly reduced in length and intensity. According to reports, the sequence was trimmed by 6 or 7 smashes in order to avoid the film receiving an NC-17 rating from the Motion Picture Association, ensuring it could remain accessible to a wider audience under a more commercially viable rating. After the film's festival premiere in September 2025, producer Jason Blum joined the project as an executive producer under his Blumhouse Productions banner. His involvement added further industry recognition to the film. However, this partnership was not publicly revealed until December 2025, when the first teaser for Obsession was officially released, bringing wider attention to the project. The film's score was composed by Rock Burwell, marking his feature film debut as a composer. His work helped define the film's unsettling and emotionally charged atmosphere through music. The official soundtrack consists of 18 tracks and was released on May 15, 2026, the same day as the film's theatrical release, allowing audiences to experience the score alongside the film's wide release. Obsession had its world premiere in the Midnight Madness section at the Toronto International Film Festival, TIFF, on September 5, 2025. The screening placed the film among some of the festival's most daring and unconventional genre entries, immediately drawing attention for its intense psychological horror elements and provocative storytelling. Just 2 days after its premiere, Focus Features entered negotiations to acquire the worldwide distribution rights to the film. The deal covered global distribution with the exception of France, New Zealand, and Russia, and was valued at approximately $14 to $15 million. This figure marked the highest price ever paid for a genre film in TIFF history at the time. Universal Pictures International was assigned to handle distribution in international territories outside the United States, expanding the film's global reach through an established studio network. The acquisition deal was officially finalized in October 2025. Following the completion of the agreement, Obsession was screened at the inaugural Focus Fest event on October 18th. Held at the Universal Studios lot, where it was showcased as one of the centerpiece genre acquisitions of the year. After its festival circuit success and distribution rollout, the film was given a wide theatrical release in the United States on May 15, 2026, bringing it to mainstream audiences following months of anticipation and industry attention generated by its festival debut and high-profile distribution deal. As of June 2, 2026, Obsession has achieved strong commercial performance at the global box office. In the United States and Canada, the film has grossed approximately $111 million, reflecting its solid reception in its primary domestic market following its theatrical release. Internationally, it has earned around $44.8 million across other territories, contributing to a combined worldwide total of roughly $155.8 million. This performance positions the film as a notable commercial success within the psychological horror genre, especially considering its relatively modest production budget and festival-to-theatrical release trajectory. In the United States and Canada, Obsession initially entered its opening weekend with modest expectations, with industry projections estimating a debut of around $8 to $10 million from 2,615 theaters. However, as early box office returns began coming in, the film significantly outperformed those forecasts. After earning approximately $7 million on its first day alone, revised projections quickly rose to around $14 million, reflecting strong audience interest and momentum building through word of mouth. The film ultimately opened to $17.2 million, securing third place at the domestic box office. It finished behind two major holdovers, Michael and the Devil Wears Prada 2, but still exceeded expectations for a psychological horror release of its scale and positioning. Momentum for Obsession did not slow after its debut. Over the extended 4-day Memorial Day frame, the film earned approximately $32 million, demonstrating strong audience retention and continued interest. In its second traditional weekend, it brought in around $24 million, marking a notable 39% increase compared to its opening weekend. This level of growth was widely regarded as highly unusual, especially for a film already in wide release across more than 2,500 theaters. Within the horror genre, such sustained second weekend growth is especially rare, making Obsession's performance stand out as one of the most unusual box office trends of the period. In particular, it was noted for achieving the largest second weekend increase for a wide-release film outside the Christmas season, underscoring its strong audience expansion rather than the typical decline seen in most theatrical releases. The strong box office performance of Obsession was largely attributed to powerful word-of-mouth and exceptionally high turnout from younger audiences. In particular, viewers aged 18 to 34 made up approximately 75% of the total audience, indicating that the film resonated strongly with younger moviegoers who helped drive its sustained momentum beyond the opening weekend. In its third weekend, the film continued its unexpected upward trajectory, earning around $27.4 million domestically. This performance marked a rare achievement in modern box office history, as Obsession became the first wide-release film outside the Christmas season since E.T. the Extraterrestrial, 1982, to increase its earnings for 3 consecutive weekends. Such consistent growth over multiple weeks is highly unusual in contemporary theatrical releases, especially for the horror genre. By that point, the film's domestic total had reached approximately $105.7 million. This milestone also made Obsession the highest-grossing domestic release in Focus Features history, surpassing the previous record held by Downton Abbey, 2019, which had earned around $97 million. The achievement solidified Obsession as both a commercial breakout and a rare example of sustained box office growth driven by audience enthusiasm rather than early front-loaded demand. On the review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, Obsession received overwhelmingly positive reviews from critics. Out of 249 critic reviews, 96% were positive, with an average rating of 8.1 over 10. The critical consensus highlighted the film's ability to take an uncomfortable and icky concept and transform it into something both entertaining and unsettling, describing it as dauntingly disturbing while also being skillfully amusing and thrilling in execution. On Metacritic, which compiles reviews into a weighted average score, the film earned a 77 out of 100 based on 35 critics. This score indicates generally favorable reviews, reflecting strong but slightly more measured critical appreciation compared to Rotten Tomatoes' near universal approval. Audience response was also notably strong. According to CinemaScore, viewers gave the film an average grade of a minus on the A+ to F scale, suggesting high satisfaction among general audiences. Additionally, post-track polling showed that 70% of viewers said they would definitely recommend the film to others, reinforcing its reputation as a crowd-pleasing horror hit despite its disturbing subject matter. Christian Zilko of IndieWire gave Obsession a B+ grade, praising it as evidence of what he described as the Krieger-ification of 2020 seconds horror. He noted that the film reflects a growing trend in modern horror toward blending extreme violence, ironic music choices, and dark comedy derived from characters responding to tragedy in selfish and uncomfortable ways. According to Zilko, this approach would likely lead to comparisons with other contemporary genre films such as Barbarian and Weapons, positioning Obsession firmly within a new wave of stylized, transgressive horror filmmaking. Matt Donato of IGN awarded the film a score of 8 out of 10, highlighting how it builds on familiar romantic horror and monkey's paw storytelling traditions. He observed that while the central idea of a wish turning against its maker is not new, Curry Barker elevates the material through strong execution and escalating intensity. Donato emphasized that the film's simplicity allows it to fully commit to its central concept, particularly in exploring the extremes of Nikki's devotion and the disturbing lengths she is willing to go in the name of love. Lou Thomas of Empire gave the film a strong 4 out of 5 stars, describing it as fresh and exhilarating despite its recognizable narrative foundations. He noted that while the story draws from familiar genre ideas, its presentation and energy make it easy to overlook those origins. For Thomas, the film's execution, tone, and momentum create a compelling viewing experience that feels vibrant and engaging throughout. In May 2026, Curry Barker revealed that he was actively considering expanding the Obsession universe beyond the original film. He suggested 2 possible directions for future storytelling: a direct sequel or an anthology-style television series. While he did not confirm which path would move forward, he expressed interest in both formats as natural extensions of the film's central concept. In discussing a potential sequel, Barker implied that there were still unexplored consequences and deeper layers within the mythology of the one Wish Willow. A follow-up film could further examine what happens after the events of Obsession, potentially focusing on the lingering effects of the wish system, its origin, or new characters affected by similar objects. This approach would allow the story to continue escalating its psychological and supernatural stakes while building on the emotional aftermath of Bear and Nikki's story. At the same time, Barker also floated the idea of a television anthology series which would take a different creative approach. In this version, each episode would center on a new character who comes into possession of a wish-granting object and makes a single life-altering wish. Rather than following one continuous narrative, the series would explore multiple standalone stories, each examining different forms of desire, obsession, and consequence. This structure would allow for a wide range of tones and situations while still remaining grounded in the core idea of wishes turning darkly against those who make them. Overall, Barker's comments suggested that he sees the obsession concept as more than a single story, but rather as a flexible framework for exploring human desire and psychological collapse through different characters and scenarios, whether in a sequel format or an episodic anthology structure. To close, Obsession ultimately stands as a disturbing and emotionally charged exploration of love, control, and consequence, where desire doesn't simply shape reality, but gradually consumes and corrupts it from within. What begins as an intimate story rooted in loneliness, longing, and the need to be understood slowly transforms into something far more unstable, as affection becomes entangled with manipulation and supernatural interference. Through Bear and Nikki's increasingly fractured relationship, The film traces how a single wish can distort not only external events, but also perception, trust, and identity. As the One Wish Willow takes effect, emotions that once felt genuine begin to blur into obsession, dependency, and fear. Every interaction becomes heavier with unspoken tension, as love stops being something shared and instead becomes something demanded, measured, and enforced. The result is a relationship that no longer feels like a connection between two people, but a collapsing system built on imbalance and emotional instability. As the story progresses, the supernatural element doesn't act as a simple catalyst for horror, but as a mirror that reflects the character's deepest insecurities and desires in increasingly extreme forms. It amplifies what is already present within them: loneliness, jealousy, fear of abandonment, and the desperate need for control, until those feelings can no longer be contained in any recognizable or healthy way. By the final moments, obsession offers no traditional sense of closure or comfort. Instead, it leaves behind the emotional and psychological aftermath of choices that cannot be taken back, relationships that have been irreparably damaged, and a reality that has been permanently altered by desire. There is no clean resolution,